All right, everybody. Tonight's episode of WrestleMagic, we're having another Mullet Manor memoir. We're talking WCCW. We're talking Dallas, Texas, home of the Mavericks and the Cowboys. By the way, fire Nico still. But joining me tonight will be we got the Triple M trio. We've got Maintenance Maverick. We've got Memphis Mark. We've got the Gardener, Michael Gross. Guys, how we doing?
All right, guys. How's it going?
Man, it's been a minute. I missed
Dude,
your
I'm
voice,
doing
dude.
great. And, honestly, I missed you too. Like Memphis Mark, people don't realize that I've gone back 20 years with Memphis Mark. All right, let's rock this.
All right, so we're talking Dallas, Texas. We're talking WCCW, a company owned by the Fritz Von Erich and ran by the Von Erich dynasty. But before we get into those guys, let's talk about some of the other talents that came through there because there's names like Stone Cold that have actually went through there. There's names like Bruiser Brody. But let's start off with somebody else. Let's start off talking about Gino Hernandez. So let's talk about him. Memphis Mark, what do you remember about him?
Gino Hernandez was known as the lovable half breed, and that was a self-proclaimed moniker that he put on himself. But he ended up leaving us at 28 years old of a drug overdose, and that's where a lot of people don't understand the curse that is talked of with WCCW. And it could be a lot of different things. Some people say it was so close to Mexico, things were cheaper. You could go down there. There's a lot of angles at that. But Gino was great, man. He was with the Von Erichs. That's where I know him the whole time.
So Gino Hernandez, so I believe it was overdose that had taken him, or what was it?
Yeah, it was a drug overdose. Like I said, at 28, he was, like I said, they called him the handsome half breed. I think I said something else, but I just looked down at my notes. But he was in the 70s and 80s. He was great. He was easy to work with at first, when he was breaking into the business. But once he started making that money and, started believing his own hype, there's your problem.
He could have been a horseman.
Really?
That's true. That's true. That's true.
He was that talented, and a lot of people don't remember that Gino Hernandez was not as good because they didn't know him because he didn't actually develop. And I think that WWE would never have like really nurtured him. But I mean, man, Gino Hernandez was the best. He was seriously a great hand. So go ahead, sir.
All right, so we got Gino Hernandez to start off with, but I also do want to bring this guy up because he has a really interesting history. And I believe I remember there was a storyline where it was claimed that he went blind. So, Chris Adams, what about this gentleman, guys? What do you remember about him?
Oh God. So Chris Adams. Chris Adams died in a shootout, I think. Chris Adams also his finisher was the Savat kick, which was the precursor to the super kick, which what I mean that's what Shawn Michaels used. So Mark, what do you want to say?
Well, I'm just going to go through a couple of little things. He was definitely shot in a drunken brawl by a friend, a fellow wrestler named Brent Parnell, at Parnell's house, which he was later um, cleared as self-defense on that. And Chris Adams definitely was one of the biggest draws. He had the baby face, the good looks. Always had usually had a good looking girl with him, so that added to the storyline. Somebody was always trying to take his girl. And by 83 he was one of the biggest draws.
Really?
So yeah, we lost a talent too early, because no telling if he would have stayed halfway straight, because there's, you hear stories about it, the modern day guys were hard to handle too. But there again, we go back to the Texas curse. They believe the hype.
Well,
Absolutely.
do you remember who his ex was? His ex cheated on him with?
Was it who we just mentioned, Gino?
No, a guy named Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Ah, well, can I get a hell yeah? Yeah, but
So,
you know, He was stunning Steve back then, I believe.
Long
Yes, he
blonde
was
hair.
actually. Yes, actually. And I told my brother in back in like 88, 87 when we would watch it on you know, local TV on ESPN. I said, this guy's gonna be something. He had his weird trunks, he had his like leg trunks. I knew. I said, this guy's gonna be something. And Tim said, I don't know. But I was right. So anyway, getting going.
All right. So
Well,
Chris Adams, interesting history. Didn't you say earlier that he was a judo champion of some sort before coming over?
yeah, yeah. I was just reading his bio. It says he was, and I've checked it a little bit. I know at least one of the years he was. It said that he was a two-time amateur judo champion over in England, and he came over to
Oh yeah, it's
Mike.
badass.
He actually went through and got and actually became a citizen here. So yeah, it was kind of sad. I just read that he immigrated by the early '80s, and yeah, his main deal was with Fritz down in Texas. So there again, Texas was so big, the market was so big that it was sustainable to have because these guys were making good money. From the
Oh,
Cow Palace
they were.
to and they were making stuff on merch back way before the Rock and
Sportatorium.
Roll Express. Yeah, the Sportatorium. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
absolutely. So when you see some of these guys that are broke in those years from that, they had a chance. It's like everybody else. Life happens. Some things come up, but they made their money back in the day.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But all right. So, any other thoughts on Chris Adams? Because obviously, this is your guys' era more than mine, for sure. I don't know as much as you guys will. You grew up seeing these guys, so any last thoughts on them, real quick, or anything else you want to say about them?
Well, I'll say that Gino and Chris were some of the biggest draws back then. Two good-looking guys out on the circuit. They were the good
True,
guys.
true.
They put them against, but they were never any better than when they went against the Von Erichs because you would have a split house. The Von Erichs were always the Von Erichs, but you started seeing a little split with them, and even when they turned heel, they were good as heels. And so, yeah, that's just, I mean, they left a lasting impression of what some wrestlers should maybe go back and look and maybe do a little film study of themselves.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
I will say, I will absolutely say that like Gino Hernandez, his tag team worked with Tully Blanchard. Before Tully Blanchard came to the NWA at Jim Crockett Promotions and did beautiful tag team work with obviously Arn Anderson, who is one of the best in the world. Um, I could say that Gino Hernandez should have been Horseman. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, he would have fit the profile, especially at the time. He was better on the mic than Tully.
Really?
He he really was. Yeah. He did these things where like he just he'd film great great promos and then he'd go off in his like Camaro,
Or
which
vet or something, whatever was new and
yeah,
popular.
and he would just do that and he would just do that and it would make it beautiful. And so like I never thought that world class was a fourth. I always thought that there was like WWF, AWA, NWA, and I thought world class was the fourth. And I thought that those were all world class champion places. And it boggles my mind that world class kind of fell off faster than anybody else.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it seemed like the company did not last as long as some of these others did. And it does, in fact, seem cursed. And I'm sure we'll get a little bit more into that later. But why don't we talk a little bit about Bruiser Brody as well? Because that's one of those characters that we talk a lot about him. And it seems like nobody in today's era really knows much about him.
It
I
might
mean,
to me I
Go
was just going
ahead.
to say, to me, one of the best big men of all time.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I mean, he slammed Andre the Giant with one arm.
Jeez.
Can we say more than that? Yeah, the one thing you don't do is slam Andre, and he did it with one arm. His book is amazing, and if anybody's out there listening, please read it. It's seriously amazing. And Bruiser Brody, there's two people they say were the toughest: Bruiser Brody and Haku. So, what I want to say about Bruiser is, gosh, if you haven't seen his matches, if you haven't seen what he's done, son of a gun, man. Mark, take it.
Well, I'm just going to go. Some of his stuff with Abdullah the Butcher was legendary blood matches. I mean, because Abdullah could only do so much, but Bruiser made him look good. And he was one of the most talented big men. Now, he was an intimidator. Some people say that that could have led up to his death. I wasn't there, so we'll never know. But as far as his in-ring ability, he was great. And the good thing I liked about him, I saw him live maybe 4 or 5 times, but one of the times I saw him live was in a like a gymnasium at a little nobody town right outside of Memphis, and he put on a show. He made a whole section get up and run. I mean, I'm talking about like maybe 30 people get up and run because they were scared of him coming at them.
I love this.
Everybody. Oh yeah, I mean, he gave you your money's worth. So if there were 10,000 people in there or 120, he came there and he did his show. And when you left there, you were talking about Bruiser Brody. And that's just you can go back and look at his film. You can find it on YouTube, and it's a good time to sit back if you want to take a little time and research somebody. He is interesting.
Yeah, I've actually heard, didn't his entrance include him just coming out of the crowd with a chain, just whipping it around just to scare everybody to an extent?
He
Yes.
did a little bit of that. Yeah, he did a little of that. He did a little of everything. But I mean, like I said, he could clear a whole section. And if you saw this big sucker and he had like fur boots on, some kind of, I don't know what it was, raccoon or something, whatever, fake raccoon. But it was, and he was 6'6" or 6'7", but you got to consider the time. There weren't 7-footers everywhere. The tallest person in NBA was like 7 foot, and there was only a few people like that. Not like today. So when you saw somebody 6'6", 6'7", 275, in shape with long flowing hair, and he's going, "Hutch, hutch, hutch." He seems like he's got the worst tick in the world. And he would scare the daylights out of just about anybody that was sitting in their chair.
But yeah, once again, another star who ended up being murdered too young.
Yeah.
Once
Way
again,
too young. Way too young. Way too young. So nephew, what I want to say to you is, like, we've known each other for a long time. We've seen each other for a long time, and like, for him to say like Brody was that big, he's that big because I've seen Memphis Mark. So to see a man bigger than that, damn.
It was
All right.
just unusual at the time. Yeah.
I believe that 100%. But yeah, going into his death a little bit, he was in Puerto Rico at the time, moved to a different territory, I guess, and somebody, I guess, went into the shower with him. They were going to talk business, and I guess business was a murder that night.
Yeah. There's a there's
Yeah.
there's a bunch of different stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode about it, it gives the testimonies from Abdullah the Butcher and Tony Atlas, but they vary from each other. So it's a little strange listening, but Tony Atlas seems the most adamant about it, where he kind of calls out Abdullah and says, nah, he's a liar. That is not what happened. And Abdullah kind of seems to just go along with his story, which I don't know which is true. None of us were there. We can't say. But Tony claims he was
Good
there in
call.
the hospital with him. So I could potentially believe that a little bit, but I don't know for sure. He talks about the whole
I
situation.
mean, the only person we could trust on this is Dutch Mantel, and he's talked about it a bit. But
All right. So yeah, going on from there. So what were some Bruiser Brody moments that you remember really well, Mark?
Well, on TV, he was good at his interviews. So he could cut the promos with anybody, but it was just until he stood next to the wrestlers, the other wrestlers, he was so much bigger than them. And so it was the same effect he had, a different generation behind me the first time they saw the Texas whatever he called, but Mark Callis, the Undertaker, when he was in Texas, because that's where he got his start.
Master
And
of
he was
Pain.
so much bigger, but he could master pain, but he could work. He wasn't just a there have been several guys that have come through that were just like bodybuilders or whatever, and they could do a couple of things. No, these guys could work.
Yeah, I believe it 100%. I mean, Undertaker is one of the most legendary names in wrestling to this day. There's people who don't watch wrestling at all. They know who the Undertaker is, so that tracks 100%. But all right, someone else's name who I wanted to bring up, and this is more of a group rather than just one person. I'm going to say the Fabulous Freebirds. So, you
Oh
guys tell
God!
me about some of these guys.
First of all, I love the Freebirds. They were the most fun to watch on TV because Michael P.S. Hayes, purely sexy. They
When
could cut
they
the best. They could cut the best promo, and then Buddy Roberts would go out and do the best match. And Terry Gordy, God, Terry Gordy was the best brawler ever. He's one of the best brawlers. And then when he died, came back to life, which is weird. Um,
What?
man, I love Terry Gordy. I love the Freebirds, but
yeah.
yes, there's a curse there.
What do you mean he died and came back? I'm a little confused here, guys.
That's
He
a whole
died on,
story in
I
itself.
believe, yeah, he died on a plane trip. Yeah, like
Heart
he
stopped
was,
beating. Heart
yeah,
stopped beating.
he was clinically dead on a plane trip, revived. I don't know all the details of it. I am a very much wrestling clinic, but yeah, like he died and then he came back to life and then he wrestled again. But
Never,
they said that
never the
he was
same.
never the same, never.
Never the same.
And that's when he went to ECW. And but if you watch Terry Gordy and Steve Williams in New Japan, you'll see something like they were called the Miracle Violent Collection for a reason. Those guys beat the Kaiser out of everybody, and I loved it. Those tag team matches were awesome. So, what about you, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. The match, Steve Williams and Terry Gordy over there, their solo matches were just great,
Yeah,
worthy of going back to. And Buddy Roberts was the workhorse. He was the one that did everything. Now he died of pneumonia. So due to some complications that I'm looking on here, it says at age 65. So he is probably Terry Gordy, after he his health incident happened, he did wrestle a little while longer, and then pretty much family and people had to step in, and he just wasn't the same anymore. We all know that P.S. Hayes is up there in
yeah,
WWE world and doing his thing. So actually, he's probably been the most successful, or he's pretty much the last one left. So he has been the most successful. So. But yeah, he changed his career though. He changed. He knew he could not get in the ring anymore, and he couldn't pull the David Lee Roth lookalike anymore. So he was smart. He went into management and went into being an agent.
That's fair. I mean, Hayes might be the most successful as of right now. However, Terry Gordy might come back again. We never know.
I think we're
Math,
good on this one.
please. You have to be disciplinary on this one. All right. If you You can whip my booty. So I'm not gonna go there. But all right. So who else do you have, sir?
All right. So along with that, I don't
Well,
really
we
want to
start
bring up
hitting. Yeah,
I don't really want to bring up Steve Austin just yet, but wasn't Bobby Eaton also a part of WCCW back when?
He was actually, yes. He tagged with I think Mark Starr way back when, and a couple other I hate to say jobbers, but but Bobby Eaton, I can't say anything like I'm not gonna say Bobby Eaton like was part of the curse because Bobby Eaton was the best tag team wrestler of all time. What do you think about that, Mark?
absolutely. And a teacher to a lot of people that would listen. And to be that ugly and call yourself beautiful, Bobby, you've got to have
God,
a pair of
Mark, only
coconuts there.
but the point is, Bobby Eaton is probably one of the best wrestlers of all time. People do not realize that. So, he's one of the ones that actually escaped the curse because he got to grow old, he got to live with his family, and he got to how do
Who
I
did he
say
marry?
this?
He married somebody else in
Arn
the
Arn Anderson's daughter.
Interesting.
There's a
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I knew he
yeah,
married
yeah.
into it. Yeah.
Bobby Eaton is in my world gold. So like if you talk about tag teams, Bobby Eaton is up there. So he doesn't have to be with a partner. It's just him. He's just that great. But
Interesting. And I think we kind of grazed over, and maybe I just didn't hear it. So Terry Gordy, how exactly did he die? Did he also succumb to the curse, or?
well, see, that's the weird thing about Terry Gordy. Terry Gordy got into the Dallas curse, and he got into pills and everything else, and he died actually, I think, on a plane crash,
He died on
or
a
not a
plane
plane
twice.
crash, but yes, yeah, he died on a plane twice, and he
Jeez.
just yeah came back to the States, and then he wrestled for ECW for a while, and then he came back as the Executioner, but everyone knew it was Terry Gordy. In fact, in the so-called Attitude Era of the beginning, everybody was chanting Terry Gordy when he was the Executioner. I feel bad for him because he was an amazing wrestler, an amazing brawler. He was no Steve Williams, he was no Bam Bam Bigelow or anything like, but the guy could wrestle, and people just don't give him his credit.
Interesting. So outside of that, I did kind of want to hold off on talking about the Von Erichs because that's going to be a long spiel. So why don't we talk a little bit about just the business as it was for WCCW? So they owned the Sportatorium, I believe, owned by Fritz Von Erich at the time, and I know the business for a while. It was incredible, but then you started to see expansion from WWF and all these other places, and it seemed like they didn't really go anywhere else. And as popular as it was, kind of became the same thing every week, was only being shown in one place. Can you guys elaborate on that a little bit?
I can. I can go into that a little bit, and I think Mark can expand on this. So basically, Global, which is what they tried to start, merged with CWA. Am I wrong, Mark?
If it's CWA, one of their little slogans, but yes, you're correct.
Okay. So they merge and they become one thing. And then you had Global, and then basically they wanted to make Kerry Von Erich the world champion and make it the third biggest company. So you had WCC or WCW, WCCW, and then you had the WWF. However, and this is where it gets tricky, is the fact that Kerry couldn't stay straight. So his match against Jerry Lawler, he was supposed to actually go over Lawler, but Mark, you want to take this one?
Well, I can't remember the exact specifics on that, but I will say that the Sportatorium, actually, Fritz was behind on rent to the
Mm,
Sportatorium. They had given him a great deal, and he still had problems with the rent. And when Jerry Jarrett came in, he was able to pretty much pay all the bills with a little bit of money, and then he, which Jerry Jarrett always was very good at doing, he took it and made a profit out of it, and then he got out of it. Is basically what happened. The WWF had robbed and raided the talent. Kerry Von Erich was even in the WWF. The Texas Tornado, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that was their biggest draw. You had Chris Adams that had passed away, Gino Hernandez that had passed away. The Freebirds were in another territory, still trying to make it up to the big times. They never,
JCP.
yeah. So you had all your biggest draws gone, and the talent that they were bringing in was some of Memphis talent, some of the locals that they had that were not up to caliber before, but now they had to use them. And so the TV product suffered. And, ratings are what they are, man. You either get ratings or you get gone.
Valid.
Interesting. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, all right, that makes a lot of sense. And I've heard some stories about God, wasn't or weren't some of the Von Erich brothers, or maybe it was just one of them, like sleeping in the sportatorium at some point before it got sold to Jerry Jarrett, the whole company.
It wasn't a Von Erich, it was another wrestler. Oh, and I feel so bad that he was a great wrestler. But Terry was, it wasn't Gordon, Terry Garvin. It was somebody like that. I can't remember exactly, but yes, there was
You
somebody.
know Terry Garvin? Jesus, tits. You
Yeah,
know Terry Garvin?
yeah, Terry Garvin, I believe, was the one that said that he was he was behind on, they were behind on paying him money, and he couldn't afford to do, to sleep anywhere else. So he was sleeping in the arena. If that's the business it was. They were driving 200 miles sometimes to make $25. That
Yeah, like people, if you have never listened to the book or watched the book or read the book, Death of the Territories, you need to, because Mark and I, and Nav, and this is no disrespect to you, we grew up in a different time. The territories were different. When you had territories and you had wrestlers, and that's where all your heart starts for wrestling. And it's disgusting to me today that like people do not respect the ability. They call the territories the indies now, and no, it you have no idea what these guys went through. So go ahead, sir.
So something that I do want to bring up, and this is something that I hate seeing, but I hate seeing fans crapping on other companies just because it's not WWE, or vice versa. If it's, let's say, AEW fans crapping on WWE because it's not their company. I am so sick of seeing that, because realistically, you need both companies. You need more than one company, or it's going to get monopolized and suddenly you're going to have a crap product no matter what. So I hate seeing whenever there's just somebody that's going to say, oh yeah, that company, there's nobody there that's good enough to be in, my favorite company. It's like, dude, no, there's talent and there's great things in every company. Even MLW, as much as I hated watching some of those pay-per-views that we were watching for free on YouTube, I was still happy to see that there is something there. And I'm glad to see that it's not just completely monopolized under WWE's brand or AEW's brand or New Japan's brand. It doesn't matter. You need other companies, or you're never going to have any kind of evolution in any kind of business. You're never going to see any kind of advancements. You're never going to have any kind of competition. Without competition, you're going to get The Miz versus Sheamus every night, and it's not going to go well. You're going to get really bored of it, and it's just not going to be that great. But yeah, I digress from my rant here about monopolizing and everything. But yeah, appreciate the fact that there's more than one company, guys. We need it. But so, other than that, let's get into the Von Erichs a little bit, because they have a very interesting history. So, Fritz Von Erich himself, didn't he buy the company long ago? And I'm not really sure how far back it goes in their lineage, but I know that Fritz himself had his own career before his sons for sure. So, can we start off with him?
Yeah, now Fritz.
Sure.
Yeah, Fritz had the claw. Yeah, that was his big move, and everybody was scared of that right hand of his, because anybody that came into that territory, he beat, and it worked. It was a formula that worked, even with his sons. But when you start having cable TV coming and people can see wrestling from all around the country at that time, it liquids, it kind of dilutes some of your fan base, and then you've got to put on that good show. And if you don't, you come in the way of what happened to WCCW.
I mean, it was a different time. It was a different era, and definitely like you look back on it and you think about it, and you're like, it was not bad television. It really was not bad television. Sorry, guys, I got hiccups. The claw, when they did the stomach claw, come on, man. Do you remember that, Mark? When someone
Oh,
would do the stomach claw, and
oh,
that's how they
absolutely.
finished somebody. Yeah, yeah. They'd finish what somebody would do the claw to the stomach and just take the baby face or heel down and just hold them there. It's I don't know, but I loved it. WCCW. Hold on one second.
The Claw was great because he could do these promos where he would take an apple and he would crush the apple on live TV a couple days before the live show. And so when he was traveling around, when he did that, that was brand new at the time. So nobody had ever seen it. So everybody went home and bought an apple and tried to crush it. And when you saw that, you got to think of the time period it was. You were amazed. Now, you didn't question whether the apple may have been sliced or may have been, whatever it was. It was the fact that you saw it live, and boy, you got to go see this guy live.
It's fair.
Well, I saw the same things with Baron von Raschke, where I'm hoping we could get on the show. And Baron von Raschke is, I don't know, amazing in my eyes for some reason, but uh, Baron von Raschke would do the same thing. He would just hold the apple and he'd just crush it because he had that claw. So I don't know. It was so weird to see, like, well, Terry or Kerry Von Erich go to WWE, and all of a sudden he's using the claw, or he's not using the claw, he's using the discus punch, which I get it because he was a discus thrower. But I hate how you alter finishers.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, some things just don't need to be changed. Some things work as they are. And yeah, I mean, Fritz von Erich, he had a legacy. So let's kind of dive into that. He had how many sons? I think it was six total.
Oh, he had a
Yeah,
yeah, he had a litter.
Yeah.
He had a litter. But the first to go though was unfortunately, it could have been one of the best they thought. And now Chris,
well, the
you
first
know,
to go actually died in Buffalo, New York.
Oh, Jackie.
Yeah,
Yeah, so he was what, like 5 or 6 years old, walking home in a snowstorm, I believe. And then I believe he touched something electrified. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was like something connected to a trailer, and then he fell face first in the snow. And then at that point, I guess while passed out, he breathed in and drowned in the snow because of that. So very unfortunate for that first son. But then I believe the next son that had died was I believe it was David Von Erich, if I remember correctly, because he had died on tour in Japan of a intestinal
yeah,
failure, if I remember
yeah.
correctly.
Mhm.
They won't really tell you the truth about that one, but yes, an intestinal failure.
I
and,
mean,
and
there is some rumor that I guess he had some sort of drug overdose and that Bruiser Brody flushed the drugs, but I wasn't there. I'm not going to say whether that happened or not. So rumor, but the official reports say he died of some sort of intestinal failure. Mark, what about you, man?
but David may have been the most talented
He was
of all of
by
them.
far.
Yeah, he could do a great promo, but he had the look, he had the body, he had the in-ring ability. He was, pretty much the total package. Kerry got all of the publicity because
He had the best body.
yeah, and Kerry was not that great on the mic. He wasn't. I think
Terrible.
David was. Yeah, I think David was a lot better. And they tried to force Chris into it, and that's well, Chris. I think wanted to be a part of it because he wanted to, what he saw in his brothers. But yeah, it was a. Let me see, which one is the one that had the brothers or has the sons that wrestled in AEW?
I want to
Kevin.
say that's Kevin. Yeah,
Yeah,
Kevin, like he probably had everything. He just didn't have a promo. He never spoke.
interesting.
And I mean, like honestly, if you watch anything from Kevin, you don't see him speak a lot. And he's the one they focus on the movie.
Yeah, which makes sense considering I believe he's the only one that survived. So I think going by his story, it makes the most sense, you know?
It makes sense. I think about like there was Jackie, Michael, Carrie,
Kevin,
David.
John
Kevin's
Boyd. No,
alive. Don't put John Boy in this. You're the
Lance,
only one who will. But yeah. There's one more I think, and I can't
Christopher,
name
Michael, and yeah, I think that's
Christopher.
it.
That's it. That Christopher. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so Dallas is a cursed territory. Keep going.
All right, so yeah, we started off with talking about Jackie, the I believe he was the oldest son, but died young. Then went to David, who was the next to unfortunately pass, and then I believe the next was I want to say it was Carrie, who I believe had suicide by gunshot to the head, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% on that, but I believe that was the way he went. I know it was suicide for sure, though.
yeah, I know Chris. It says here. I'm just looking at. I just pulled it up. It said that Chris died in '91.
Okay,
So I think he may have gone before Kerry.
okay, that
Uh,
makes sense.
yeah, and I
He
didn't
did
know
go
that.
before Gary.
Yeah, and apparently they tried to at the end team him up with Chris Adams, which was known to be the guy that sold all the drugs to the wrestlers to help his
Ooh,
Yeah.
career. And yeah, that was pretty much the end of that. According to this particular source, wrestlersdeath.com there, I guess. Um, wow, I did not know that. I never saw those two tag up, and that is I would not want to do that to my own kids, but that's also me looking back all these years later too.
that is fair. And then yeah, so his career, what was it like? You said that you thought that he kind of seemed like either he was forcing it or maybe he wanted to be part of it. Was he the one that had the like shock or something in a surgery, I want to say?
Yeah, he had some kind of health
Uh,
issues. Yeah, that played a
Toxic
limited role.
shock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Toxic shock basically like just shocks your whole system, and it makes you, I don't know how to say this, but slower mentally. And
Yeah.
so yeah, like toxic shock is no joke, but it's one of those things like your body, your muscles don't recover from. So that's one thing that yes, yeah, Michael had that.
Interesting. And I remember, I want to say it was while I was watching the Iron Claw, they had the reenactment of him after his surgery trying to get back in the ring, trying to get back up to speed. And he just felt like he couldn't do it. And eventually you see him just go out to a field pulling a sleeping bag with him. And I guess he overdosed in that field and had a note that said something along the lines of, don't worry about me. I'm in a better place now. And it's very tragic how that went down, just seeing that he felt like he could never recover and couldn't be up to par with, I guess, his brothers and the others around him. And I'm sure that that probably bothered him a lot in his head.
Well, that's where I heard Carrie went down, and that's the way I feel the song uh Sleeping Bag by Paw. And anybody listening here, Paw, Paw, it's a great hillbilly industrial band, or not industrial, but hillbilly alternative band. They're a fun band, and if you listen to that band and you listen to the song Sleeping Bag, it's the Von Erichs. Definitely Von Erichs, but it's they've never said that. They've never come out with that, but yes, that's that. And yes, you're absolutely right. So who
Yeah.
we up next?
Well, so I also know that, what was it? So we talked about Kerry a little bit, the fact that he shot himself at one point, and then last of them, I believe,
Yeah.
unfortunate. So Michael had died well after his toxic shock and the suicide that had followed, and then Christopher would have been the last one. So Christopher had committed suicide also by overdose, partly due to his depression after his brother had died and wanting to be with him, as those two were close. Really bothered him because I believe, though, from what I've heard or what I think I remember correctly, Mark, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, that really tried to be, but he just wasn't really up to par with the other Von Erichs, and it just wasn't really his thing, from what I've heard.
Yes,
God, that
yes,
sucks.
yeah. That's basically he just couldn't. Being compared to somebody like that, living in that limelight. I did pull it up. They did have six kids in total. Mike, Chris, Carrie, all died of suicide. So wow. And Kevin is the only remaining. Marshall and Ross wrestled in. Oh no, these are
Angel.
yeah, those are the grandsons that are wrestling as the Von Erichs now.
Interesting. And I know that Carrie actually has a daughter living still. I believe it's Lacey, who she wrestled in
Lazy. Yeah.
TNA for a while. I don't know what she's
Honestly,
doing. Yeah, I agree. She wasn't great in the ring. She, if I remember correctly, one of her bigger moments in her career was flirting with Steve Harvey when they did the TNA Family Feud crossover episode. And I thought it was all right. It was entertaining, but yeah, she just wasn't the greatest wrestler. I remember she was with the Beautiful People for a while, and she was a pretty face. I'll give her that, but the Von Erich name can only take you so far. But yeah, any other thoughts on Michael, unfortunately?
No, I think
no.
we've summed it up. I mean, it's there's no way to cap something up that's that sad. It's just all you can do is talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Iron Claw like really did a good job of addressing most of the family. So I'll say, just watch the Iron Claw at this point.
Oh, definitely. We had Chavo on the show a while back, and he was a big part of the script. He explained a lot, and I really appreciated when he was on the show and, willing to talk about everything. That had to be hard just to sit there and go through the script about such a tragic lifetime, really. Looking at, could you imagine having six children and then one survives at the very end? That'd be driving me insane. Plus, a business that, let's face it, ultimately failed under him. I feel like life would just crush me at that point, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
it's no parent should ever outlive their children, and that's a shame in itself. But this was just. I didn't know this. They just mentioned that one of David's daughters was born with SIDS and passed away. One of his kids. So they have when you talk about the curse, it goes into that family a lot more and the people that were around them. And it's a shame. It's definitely a shame, but it's also a teaching lesson. What
Absolutely.
what not to do.
That's one way to look at it. But so we've covered the Von Erich family, as unfortunate as their fates were. We covered most of WCCW. Now, what happened after WCCW? Because I know there was a little bit more that went off the rails a little bit after that company specifically was finished off. And I heard there was something about like some sort of Western wrestling thing that was going to be going on for a while back then. I
Well,
don't know.
they tried to mess or they tried to merge with Memphis, and it was a mess. It was a
Hmm.
mess. That's the best way I can put it. It was a mess. And Mark was there for it. I know he knows about it. But basically, like they were going to put Kerry Von Erich over, and he bled to death in a match against Jerry Lawler. Mark, you remember that?
That yeah, he lost consciousness. Yes, and I'm trying to find out the exact name that they were going under because it was WCCW
Yeah,
until 90. And so I'm trying to find the exact
Global.
timeline. Yeah, United USWA from 90
Yeah,
for
that's
about a
that.
year. For about a year. That would have been the Jerry Jarrett time there. And then after that, it pretty much
It was,
That
it was
was it.
Shicer.
Yeah, that was pretty much it after Jarrett pulled out. Yeah, a week before he pulled out, the reason it says he pulled out is they dropped the TV show, and Jarrett knew that he couldn't make no money without TV, and that was the end of it.
And what was the TV show? And I know you're going to say this. WMC.
Oh, no, for the local.
Yeah.
Oh, and wait a minute, I'm sorry, I wanted to go back. The guy that was sleeping in the auditorium was Eric Embry.
Okay. Okay.
Eric
Yeah.
Embry. Dear Lord. Eric Embry. He
Well, but
sucked.
yeah,
Wasn't it also
God.
called WCWA or something at some point?
There
uh,
was a point, but
yes,
that was
yes.
I don't know. We do not. I'll say collectively, we do not know why it was called WCWA.
That was what Jarrett put together to
Yeah,
when the Memphis
but
Wrestling came in. That's what they went under. And the biggest feuds they had there at that time was Chris Adams and oh wow, Chris Adams and Tony Adams against Phil Hickerson and Tojo Yamamoto. Now Tojo
Phil
probably would have
Hicker,
been
JoJo. Oh my gosh,
he
How do
would
we
have been
forget about
60
Tojo?
something. Eric
Phil
Embry and
Hickerson.
Billy Travis.
Oh my
Uh,
god,
and then
you're calling out some names here, bro. Go ahead, sir.
well, Phil Hickerson threw me out of a bar in Jackson, Tennessee one night and pointed my car towards Memphis and had a state trooper tell me, son, I'd get in this car right now and leave. And a girl asked me to dance in the club, and I started dancing with her, and I did not realize that was the manager's wife.
Woo.
And so after they proceeded to put me through the door key the door hole where the key went, or at least try to put me through it. By the time we got outside, the police had gotten there, and Phil Hickerson almost saved me in a sense. They told me to point my car towards Memphis and son, get in that car. And I took his words of wisdom to heart. And I got in the car and
Hey, I took
I
you.
drove
I
back.
took.
That's fair. But yeah, so it says here under the Wikipedia page, which I get it, not the most reliable source, but it says some of the successors were the USWA, obviously, but then also International World Class Championship Wrestling. Where did the I come from here?
I no, that's just trash.
I wonder
Really?
if that was New Japan attempt to come into Texas.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
They did a few shows like that back in those years. International usually meant either Ohio wrestling, which was gone by then, or
Or
New
it was
Japan.
Joe Savaldi. It was Joe Savaldi doing all that. Yeah, just trust me on this one.
All right. And what about later on? It said World Class Revolution.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, me neither. But yeah, so eventually the company went under, giving some great names from Mark Calloway, Stone Cold Steve Austin. There was still some talent that really does still live on, and it's unfortunate how everything went with WCCW, but they have a legacy. They have history, at least, I guess. But I mean, seems like they had the bad luck. Maybe it is cursed. Who knows? Not really sure how else to put it. But yeah, I think that about covers most of WCCW, unless you guys have any other thoughts on it.
No, I just go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's to close the chapter on a sad book is the best way to put that. But there's a lot of lights, and like I said, we would not have gotten two of the biggest wrestlers, uh, in my time, and that would have been Stone Cold and the Undertaker. They came through there and honed their craft there. So for that alone, we're appreciative.
Absolutely.
And for me, I'm gonna say I just love everybody listening and the fact that we're having a good time and we're talking and we got Memphis Mark back. It's amazing. And I just want to say that, Mark, do you have a movie or a song you want to sign off with?
No, I'm just happy to be able to sign off. So,
And I want to say my song or movie. So, should I do a song or movie, Mav?
Uh, I mean, you already kind of did a song earlier, so I'll say do a movie.
All right. We're going to go with Animal House.
Fair enough.
If you haven't seen it, folks, if you haven't seen it, there's something wrong with you. John Belushi was one of the greatest. And his band was the Blues Brothers. But yeah. How about you, boss?
Well, all right. So before I say anything about a movie, I do want to ask one question to you guys. So we have now covered Memphis and Dallas. Where are we covering next? We go in Portland, Puerto Rico, Florida. What are we thinking?
Puerto Rico would be pretty interesting.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I'd love to do Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe after that we could do Portland because Billy Jack Haynes alone is probably an hour long episode, but we'll save that for another day. But so, movie recommendation. So, lately we've been quoting this movie at work, and I don't know if I've recommended it before, but we've all been kind of laughing at just the fact that all of us have seen it, and I can't believe that this many people have seen this movie. Kung Pao Enter the Fist. As dumb as it is a parody movie for kung fu movies. And
Your Uncle Tim got you into this, didn't he?
no, he did not. He actually did not. I was out on a certain type of trip, and yeah, we were in something called a day room, and somebody had the DVD of it, which I guess is rare. And I remember I'm sitting there, and my mind was blown with just the ridiculous comedy I was witnessing. I couldn't believe how dumb but funny it was. None of us could stop laughing. So, if you guys want a good laugh, Kung Pao Enter the Fist is one way to get there. But you guys know my typical sign off. Do something nice for somebody. You never know who needs it out there. And with that, Memphis Mark, why don't you say it instead?
Oh man, I forgot. Look, we're just going to end it. We're going to do it a little different tonight. We're just gonna say, from all the guys, this is Memphis Mark, and we're out of here.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.